The apex predator containment just breached, and the humans walking toward it with a clipboard. Instructor Zilax's 3 hearts stopped simultaneously. His manipulator appendages froze over the emergency protocol console as he watched the security feed in absolute horror. The red breach alert screamed across every display in the command center, but that wasn't what paralyzed him. It was the small figure in the standard-issue khaki uniform, strolling down Corridor 7 like she was heading to check inventory. Facility-wide evacuation. All personnel to emergency pods immediately. The automated warning blared through every speaker, accompanied by strobing crimson lights. Victhorin Deathstalker containment failure, Protocol Omega initiated. This is not a drill. Zilax slammed his primary appendage onto the direct comm to Sector Command. Command, this is Station Chief Zilax, Authorization Gamma 7 Apex. We have a catastrophic breach. The Vixithoran has escaped primary containment, requesting immediate military response and... He glanced back at the screen, his voice climbing into registers that would have shattered human eardrums. By the ancestral void, the human is still walking toward it. Repeat that, Station Chief? Command's voice crackled with static and disbelief. The human trainee. She's approaching the breach zone. Zilax's manipulators danced across the controls, trying to override the corridor blast doors, seal off sections, activate emergency barriers. Anything. Every command returned the same message. Safety. Protocols overridden. Evacuation in progress. She's not evacuating. She's... He zoomed the camera feed. She's carrying assessment forms. The Vixthoran Deathstalker, the creature that had rendered 47 civilizations extinct across 12 star systems, the living nightmare that had caused the complete abandonment of the Tertian colonies, the apex predator whose very existence had required the Galactic Conservation Corps to build this facility at the edge of surveyed space, where its inevitable escape would claim the fewest lives. The creature with a documented 100% kill rate across every species ever encountered. And Emma Johnson was checking her clipboard. Is this about the big cat thing? Her voice came through the corridor comm system, casual and slightly annoyed. Because someone seriously needs to fix those door seals. 3rd time this week something's gotten out. Zilax's translation implant struggled with the phrase, big cat thing, cycling through several interpretations before settling on an approximate meaning that made his internal organs clench. She was referring to the Vixithoran Deathstalker, a creature responsible for more deaths than the last 3 galactic wars combined, as a big cat thing. Emma Johnson! He practically screamed into the comm. Evacuate immediately. That is a direct order. Get to the emergency pods now. Yeah, I heard the alarm. Emma's voice maintained that same Earth-casual tone that had baffled alien instructors for the past 3 weeks. But I'm on feeding duty for Section 7, and someone's got to make sure. Wait, did you say emergency pods? For what? For the Vixthoran! Zilax was now standing, all 4 of his legs trembling. Around him, the other facility staff had already evacuated, following the protocols drilled into every Conservation Corps member from their first day of training. The most lethal predator in known space has breached containment. Every protocol demands immediate facility abandonment. Behind him, Senior Administrator Kylthas burst back through the command center doors, having apparently overcome her own survival instincts. Did you say the human is still inside? Zilax, we need to seal the facility and call in. She's approaching it! Zilax gestured frantically at the screen. Both aliens watched in mounting horror as Emma turned a corner, clipboard still in hand, and stopped. She tilted her head, raising one of her mobile eyebrow ridges, a human expression the instructor had learned to recognize over the past weeks, though he'd never quite understood its full meaning. Oh, Emma said, looking down the corridor at something outside the camera's field of view. Hey there, buddy. Did someone leave your enclosure door open again? The silence in the command center was absolute. Even the alarms seemed to fade into background noise as Zilax and Kylthas stared at the screen, waiting for the inevitable. The Vixithoran's attack pattern was well documented. Detection, stalking, 0.3 seconds. Strike, 0.7 seconds. Termination, 1.2 seconds. Total time from visual contact to confirmed kill, 2.2 seconds, never varying by more than 0.03 seconds across 1,847 documented encounters. They waited. Emma tapped her pen against the clipboard. You look stressed. Is your enclosure too small? I keep telling them these spaces aren't meeting basic psychological needs. 3 seconds, 4 seconds, 5 seconds. The Vix Thorin Deathstalker hadn't attacked. Zilax felt his breathing spiracles beginning to close, a biological response to extreme stress. This is impossible, he whispered. Command, we need what, Station Chief? The voice from command now carried an edge of panic. We're scrambling the containment fleet. ETA 40 minutes. Can you maintain safe distance until... She's talking to it, Kael'thas shrieked, pointing at the screen with a shaking appendage. Emma had taken several steps forward, close enough now that the corridor camera could capture the edge of the Vix Thorin in frame. 6 meters of armored horror, mandibles that could shear through reinforced titanium, sensory organs that could detect fear pheromones from 3 kilometers away. Dangerous, Emma said, apparently responding to something in her calm earpiece. She raised that eyebrow ridge again, her voice carrying a tone that Zilax's translator labeled as skeptical, amusement. Dangerous to who, sir? Dangerous to who? Zilax's voice cracked across 3 octaves. Emma Johnson, that creature has a confirmed kill count of over 15,000 sentient beings. It has exterminated 47 civilizations. The Vix Thorin Deathstalker is classified as Extinction Level Threat Category Omega. It is dangerous to everyone. Through the security feed, they watched Emma's head tilt in that peculiar human gesture. Okay, but dangerous to who specifically? Because I'm looking at him right now and he just seems agitated. Agitated? Kael'thas gripped the console edge. It doesn't get agitated. It kills. Immediately. Always. Yeah, but dangerous to who exactly? Emma's voice carried that maddening earth-casual tone. Have you tried just calming it down? Zilax felt his linguistic centers struggling. Calming? What do you mean, calming it down? It's an apex predator. Its entire behavioral profile is engineered for maximum lethality. It responds to any biological presence with immediate lethal force. Uh-huh. Emma was still walking forward. The camera angle shifted, showing the full scope of the Vix Thorin now, a nightmare of chitinous plates, blade-like appendages, and sensory clusters that could detect a heartbeat through solid walls. So you're saying it responds to fear and threat responses with aggression? That's pretty standard predator behavior, sir. Standard? Zilax was now cycling through every emergency protocol in the database. There is nothing standard about Emma, stop walking. She didn't stop. Kael'thas activated every camera in the corridor, switching between angles with desperate speed. The behavioral analysis is absolute. The Vix Thorin detects fear pheromones, elevated cardiovascular activity, defensive posturing. Any sign of threat response triggers its attack sequence. We've tried everything. Tranquilizers don't affect its biology. Energy barriers just make it adapt. We sent in combat drones and it... Wait, you sent in combat drones? Emma actually stopped walking, turning to look directly at a camera. To calm down a scared animal? Are you serious right now? Scared. Zilax felt his cognitive processes fracturing. It's not scared. It's a killing machine. Yeah, okay, sure. Emma turned back to the Vix Thorin, which had now moved closer. Close enough that its shadow fell across her small human frame. Hey buddy, you seem stressed. Enclosure too small? I keep telling them these habitats aren't providing adequate environmental enrichment. The creature moved. Zilax's 3 hearts stopped again. The Vix Thorin's massive form flowed with that characteristic liquid grace, positioning itself directly behind Emma Johnson. Strike range, optimal killing position. Every behavioral model said the attack would come now, mandibles deploying, blade limbs extending. The 1.2-second termination sequence. Emma didn't run. She didn't even turn around. "I can hear you." "Back there," she said, making a note on her clipboard. "Your joint movement sounds off." "When's the last time anyone checked you for inflammation? These temperature-controlled environments can really mess with arthropod-adjacent physiology." "Command!" Zillax screamed into the comm. "Override authorization required. We need immediate military intervention, facility destruction protocols." "Station Chief, please confirm. You're requesting we destroy the entire facility." Command's voice was steady but tight. "The human won't evacuate. She's—" Zillax looked at the screen. The Vix Thorin loomed over Emma, its sensory organs extended, its body positioned in what every expert in the galaxy would identify as pre-strike posture. "Except, Kael'thas," he whispered. "Pull up the behavioral analysis charts, the posture classification database." Kael'thas's manipulators flew across her console. "Pre-strike posture, 97% confidence match, consistent with all previous—" She stopped. "Wait. The mandible angle is wrong. And the sensory organs, they're not in attack configuration, they're—" "Exploratory," Zillax breathed. "By the ancestors, they're in exploratory configuration." On screen, Emma had turned around, looking up at the massive creature towering over her. "There you are." "Okay, let's see." She reached up, and the instructors watching flinched in unison, but Emma just pulled out what appeared to be a small light device from her pocket. "Don't freak out, just gonna check your eyes real quick." She shined the light toward the Vix Thorin's primary sensory cluster. The creature should have struck. Every model, every simulation, every documented encounter said it should have struck. Instead, it leaned down. "Pupil response looks good," Emma muttered, making another note. "No signs of infection or stress-induced damage. How long has it been since anyone did a basic health assessment on you?" The Vix Thorin's body language was shifting. The blade limbs that could slice through reinforced steel retracted slightly. The mandibles that had crushed the skulls of thousands of beings remained closed. The creature that had never exhibited anything but immediate lethal aggression was— "Is it—" Kael'thas's voice was barely audible. "Is it calming down?" "Impossible," Zillax said, but the word felt hollow. He was watching the impossible unfold in real time. Emma walked around the creature, her movements casual and unhurried, examining it from different angles. "Yeah, see, this is what I'm talking about. Look at the wear patterns on these dorsal plates. When's the last time this guy had proper substrate for natural molting behavior, and the environmental enrichment in that enclosure is basically zero? No wonder he broke out." "Command," Zillax said slowly, his eyes never leaving the screen. "Hold the military response." "Station Chief?" "Just hold." He cycled through 12 different camera angles, confirming what his training said was impossible. The Vix Thorin Deathstalker, the creature responsible for more deaths than any other predator in recorded galactic history, was standing completely still while a human female examined its physical condition without any protective equipment, weapons, or apparent concern for her continued existence. "Emma," Zillax's voice was quiet now, almost reverent in its confusion. "What are you doing?" "Basic health assessment," Emma replied, as if this was the most obvious thing in the universe. "Pretty sure nobody's done one in a while. His stress indicators are through the roof. Have you guys been keeping proper records?" The creature made a sound, a low, resonant vibration that every database classified as pre-kill vocalization. Emma looked up at it and smiled. "Yeah, I know. They're not taking very good care of you, are they?" The Vixithoran's head tilted. Zillax felt his entire understanding of xenobiology beginning to crack. The xenobiology experts arrived 43 minutes later, emergency transport pods screaming into the facility's docking bay. Dr. Vex Thule, three-time recipient of the Galactic Scientific Excellence Award, author of Predatory Behavioral Matrices Across Known Species, stormed into the command center with 4 colleagues trailing behind. "Show me the footage," he demanded. "Show me this alleged impossibility." Xylax had watched the security feeds continuously for the past 40 minutes. He'd stopped trying to make sense of what he was seeing and simply documented. Now he queued up the relevant segments without comment. The experts watched in silence. On screen, Emma Johnson sat cross-legged on the corridor floor, the Vixithoran Deathstalker curled beside her, while she made notes on her clipboard. As they watched, Emma reached out and ran her hand along the creature's dorsal plating, examining the texture. "Pause," Dr. Vex Thule said, his voice strangled. "Replay that last segment." They watched again. Emma's hand on the creature not moving, not attacking, just allowing it. "No sedation?" one of the junior experts whispered. "None," Kael'thas confirmed. "No tranquilizers, no restraints, no protective equipment. She just walked up to it." Dr. Vex Thule's facial chromatophores cycled through colors that Xylax recognized as profound distress. "This is scientifically impossible. The Vixithoran's neurological structure doesn't allow for docile behavior. Its endocrine system maintains constant aggression hormones. Its sensory apparatus is literally designed to trigger attack responses to any biological presence. What we're seeing violates every established principle of xenozoology." "Maybe you should tell the human that," Kael'thas muttered, gesturing to the live feed. Emma's voice came through the speakers. "You all realize this is basically just a scared animal, right?" She was looking directly at a camera, that peculiar human expression on her face that the translator approximated as amused exasperation. Like, "I get that he's big and looks scary, but you've got a terrified apex predator stuck in a sterile box with no environmental enrichment, no proper substrate, no social interaction, and your solution was to send in combat drones. Of course he's aggressive." "Scared," Dr. Vex Thule's voice climbed. "The Vixithoran doesn't experience fear. Its neural architecture lacks the capacity for—" "Yeah, he's scared," Emma continued, as if she could hear the expert's protest. "Look at his behavioral patterns. Every time someone approaches with fear, pheromones and aggressive posturing, he responds with defensive aggression. It's textbook stress-induced territorial behavior. Back on Earth, we see this in everything from big cats to crocodiles to bears." "Earth predators," Dr. Vex Thule said slowly, "are not extinction event organisms." "Actually," Xylax found himself saying, "we haven't studied Earth predators. They're classified as low threat because humans—" He stopped. "Because humans domesticated most of them." The command center fell silent. On screen, Emma was now examining the creature's mandibles that had sheared through battle armor, crushed starship hulls, torn apart reinforced containment units. She gently pressed on the joint mechanism, and the Vixithoran opened its mouth wider, allowing inspection. "See this inflammation here?" Emma pointed to something the camera couldn't quite capture. "This is what happens when you don't provide proper dietary variation. His entire digestive tract is probably a mess. Have you been feeding him nothing but protein supplements?" The dietary protocols were established by the foremost nutritional xenobiologists in the galaxy, one of the junior experts protested weakly. "Yeah, well, your foremost xenobiologists don't understand basic animal psychology," Emma said, not looking up from her examination. "You've been treating him like a weapons system instead of a living being. Everything about your protocols is designed around fear and containment, which just reinforces his stress response, which makes him more aggressive, which makes you more afraid, and around we go." Kael'thas's manipulators were trembling. "She's describing a self-fulfilling prophecy." "Impossible," Dr. Vex Thule repeated, but his voice lacked conviction. "The kill count, 47 civilizations, 15,000 confirmed deaths." "Pull up the incident reports," Xylax said quietly. "All of them." They spent the next 20 minutes reviewing every documented Vix-Thorin encounter. Every single one followed the same pattern. Species encounters creature. Species responds with fear and aggression. Creature attacks. Species dies. The Tertian colonies had tried to contain it with force fields and automated weapons. The Zephyrin Empire had attempted chemical warfare. The Kylaxian Confederacy had literally carpet-bombed an entire continent trying to eliminate it. Every response based on fear. Every response triggering the exact behavior they feared. By the ancestors, Kael'thas whispered, we created the monster. On screen, Emma was now demonstrating something. She stood up, and the Vix-Thorin rose with her, a movement so synchronized it looked choreographed. She walked several steps. The creature followed. She stopped. It stopped. She turned. It turned. Body language, Emma explained to the camera. Tone of voice. Confidence without aggression. These are the basics of working with any apex predator. You can't approach them with fear because they interpret fear as threat. You can't approach them with violence because they respond to violence with superior violence. You approach them with calm confidence and respect for what they are. She's training it, one expert breathed. No, Zilax corrected, finally understanding. She's communicating with it. Emma sat back down, and the Vix-Thorin settled beside her again, its massive head now resting near her lap. She absently scratched behind one of its sensory clusters while reviewing her notes, and the creature made that low vibration sound again, the sound every database classified as pre-kill vocalization. Except Emma was sitting there, alive and unharmed, while the creature that had killed thousands made that sound in what was clearly contentment? Back home, we'd call this basic animal husbandry, Emma said, her tone matter-of-fact. Every kid who grows up around animals learns this stuff. Well, every kid who survives around animals anyway. She chuckled at her own joke. Dr. Vexthul sat down heavily, his entire body sagging. Our entire xenozoology framework might be wrong. Not might be, Kael'thas said, watching the screen where a human was casually petting the most lethal predator in known space. Is wrong. Fundamentally, catastrophically wrong. Command, Zilax said into the comm, his voice steady despite the cosmic implications crashing through his consciousness. Cancel the military response. We don't have a containment breach. Station Chief? He watched Emma make another note on her clipboard. The Vix-Thorin's eyes, all 6 of them, tracking her movement with what could only be described as focused interest rather than predatory intent. We have a paradigm breach, Zilax said, and it's much bigger than we thought. The emergency council session of the Galactic Conservation Corps convened 6 hours later, every senior administrator across 12 sectors attending via quantum link. Zilax had never addressed such a high-level assembly. He'd also never had to explain something that rewrote every principle the organization was founded on. Let me understand this correctly, Council Director Talana said, her image flickering in the holographic display. You're telling us that the Vix-Thorin Deathstalker, the creature that rendered 47 civilizations extinct, is docile because a human asked nicely? That's oversimplifying, but essentially, yes, Zilax replied. He pulled up the compiled data. We've reviewed every extinction event attributed to the Vix-Thorin. All 47 civilizations approached it with the same methodology. Fear-based containment, aggressive force projection, or preemptive military strikes. The holographic display filled with incident reports. The Tertian colonies deployed autonomous weapon platforms. Creature destroyed them and the entire facility in defensive response. The Zephyrin Empire attempted chemical pacification. Creature interpreted it as attack and eliminated the research station. The Kylaxian Confederacy, full military assault. Creature responded by devastating 3 continents. Every single encounter, Dr. Vexthul added, his voice hollow with the weight of realization, was initiated with hostile intent based on our assumption that the creature was inherently aggressive. We never considered that we were triggering the exact behavior we feared. Show them the current footage, Kael'thas said quietly. The display switched to the live feed. Emma sat in what had been redesigned as a proper enclosure, her words, with the Vix Thorin resting beside her. She was reading something on a datapad while absently scratching behind the creature's sensory cluster. The creature's body language showed complete relaxation. That's impossible, one council member whispered. We said that too, Zilax replied. For 6 hours, we said that. Then we tested it. He pulled up additional footage. Emma in Containment Bay 7 with the Creathian render, a creature that had depopulated an entire moon colony. It sat calmly while Emma examined its feeding apparatus, explaining something about dental health and proper bone structure maintenance. Next footage, Emma in the aquatic section with the depth horror of Sector 9. She floated in the water, while the creature that had sunk 14 research vessels circled her peacefully. Yeah, he's just territorial. You kept sending submarines that sounded like rival predators. Of course he attacked them. Final footage, Emma in the exotic atmosphere chamber with 3 plasma screamers, creatures that existed partially in states of matter most species couldn't perceive. They drifted around her like pets, their energy signatures calm and stable. They're responding to electromagnetic intent. You were broadcasting fear, which to them reads as aggressive static. Just think calm thoughts and they're fine. The council chamber was silent. How many? Council Director Talana's voice was barely audible. How many species did we lose because we approached them wrong? All of them, Emma's voice came through the live feed. She'd apparently patched into the council session. Sorry to interrupt, but yeah, all of them. I've reviewed your extinction-level threat database. Every single species in there is exhibiting classic fear, aggression, or territorial defense patterns. You're not dealing with monsters. You're dealing with scared, stressed, poorly managed animals in completely inappropriate environments. Miss Johnson, Talana said carefully, are you suggesting that our entire conservation framework is incorrect? I mean, I'm just a wildlife rehab specialist from Earth, but yeah, pretty much. Emma's tone was apologetic but firm. You're running these facilities like maximum security prisons for war criminals. These are living beings with psychological needs, environmental requirements, and social structures. Back home, we figured this out like 200 years ago with zoos and wildlife sanctuaries. Earth zoos, Dr. Vex Thule said slowly, contain creatures that humans classify as dangerous, correct? Oh, sure. Tigers, bears, crocodiles, sharks, venomous snakes. We've got tons of species that could absolutely kill a human, but we don't treat them as enemies. We treat them as animals that need proper care, appropriate habitats, and behavioral enrichment. Most of them do fine once their needs are met. Zilax watched the council members exchange glances, their various species' expressions of distress remarkably similar across their diverse physiologies. We've been the danger, Kael'thas said, her voice carrying across the quantum link. Every containment breach, every facility destruction, every death, we cause them by treating these creatures as weapons instead of wildlife. Emma had moved on to preparing what she called enrichment activities for the Vix Thorin. Puzzles, variable terrain, objects to investigate. The creature watched with evident interest, its body language nothing like the tense, aggressive posture from every historical record. What do you need from us, Miss Johnson? Talana asked finally. Bigger enclosures for starters. These things need space and proper environmental enrichment. Oh, and I'm going to need to completely redesign your feeding protocols. Half these guys are malnourished or eating completely wrong diets. Also, someone's going to need to approve a big budget increase because behavioral training takes time and resources. She paused, looking up at the camera. Oh, and I'm calling this guy Patches. The whole Deathstalker thing is giving him a complex. Patches, Zilax repeated faintly. Yeah, he's got this cute pattern on his dorsal plates. See? Emma pointed, and the creature that had extinct 47 civilizations tilted obligingly to show the camera. Looks like Patches, right? The Vix Thorin, Patches, made that low vibration sound, his eyes focused on Emma with what Zilax was learning to recognize as contentment. Council Director, Zilax said, feeling his entire worldview restructuring in real time, I recommend Miss Johnson be appointed as Chief Xenofauna Behavioral Consultant. We need to review every species in our care immediately, and we need to completely overhaul our training programs. Agreed, Talana said. Miss Johnson, the position is yours if you want it. We also need you to review our protocols for the shriek colonies, the void mantis population, and, she consulted her data, approximately 347 other, uncontainable species currently in isolation facilities across the galaxy. Sure, sounds good, but I'm gonna need help. Can't do this alone. Emma was now tossing some kind of object, and Patches was playing, catching it gently in his mandibles and returning it. Also, fair warning, most of your uncontainable species probably just need bigger spaces, proper socialization, and maybe some therapy. You guys have been traumatizing these poor things for generations. Zilax thought about the implications. Centuries of conservation efforts, all based on fear. How many species had they lost, not to inherent danger, but to their own misunderstanding? How many civilizations had fallen because they saw threats instead of frightened animals? We have much work to do, he said quietly. On screen, Patches gently placed the object back in Emma's hand, waiting for another throw. The galaxy's most lethal predator, playing fetch. 3 weeks later, the facility had been transformed. The official documentation now read, Human Methodologies for Xenofauna Management, First Edition, Draft Protocols. Emma had crossed out draft and written common sense in the margin. Zilax had left it that way. He found her in the redesigned Sector 7 habitat, sitting on our observation platform with her datapad, stylus tapping against her chin as she reviewed feeding schedules. Below, Patches navigated an enrichment course she'd designed. Puzzles, varied terrain, objects that required problem-solving to access treats. The council approved your budget increase, Zilax said, approaching carefully. Not from fear of Patches anymore, but from a newfound respect for the work Emma was doing. They also want to know if you'll accept the permanent position as chief consultant. Emma looked up, that eyebrow raising. Permanent? Like, stay here permanently? The work is extensive. We've identified 412 species requiring behavioral assessment and protocol revision. The council believes your expertise is... Sure, Emma interrupted, returning to her datapad. But I'm gonna need bigger enclosures for at least half these guys, and way more enrichment toys. Oh, and someone to help with the paperwork because, wow, you guys really love your paperwork. Zilax felt what he'd learned was called relief in human terms. Of course. Whatever you need. Great, Emma made another note. Patches needs more protein variety in his diet. I'm thinking we try some of those Keltharian pack beasts. They're sustainable, right? As if hearing his name, Patches completed the enrichment course and bounded over, a sight that still made Zilax's instincts scream danger, even as his rational mind knew the creature was simply excited. Emma absently reached out to scratch behind his sensory cluster, not even looking up from her notes. Also, she said, standing and stretching, I'm starving. Anyone know if the cafeteria has tuna? Patches loves tuna. She walked toward the exit and Patches followed, a 6-meter apex predator trailing behind a human like an oversized puppy. The facility staff in the corridor parted instinctively, still processing the sight even after 3 weeks. Some still looked terrified, most just looked confused. Emma waved casually as she passed. Hey everyone, just heading to lunch. Patches, come on. The Vix Thorin Deathstalker, the creature that had extinguished 47 civilizations, that had killed 15,000 beings, that had been the subject of nightmares across 12 star systems, obediently followed his human down the corridor. Zilax returned to his office and opened his instructor's log, the official record that would be reviewed by the Conservation Corps and archived in the galactic database. He stared at the entry from 3 weeks ago. Vixithoran Deathstalker, extinction level threat. Approach with extreme caution, lethal force authorized. He deleted it. In its place, he typed, creature not dangerous. Previous assessment, catastrophically wrong. Human assessment, he just needed a friend. Recommend immediate review of all lethal classifications. Further recommend that humans be consulted on all future xenofauna behavioral protocols. Through his office window, he could see Emma in the courtyard, Patches sitting attentively while she held up some kind of treat. Sit, her voice carried faintly. Good boy, now stay. The deadliest creature in the known galaxy had learned to sit in a single afternoon. Zilax added one final note to his log. The threat was never the creatures. The threat was our fear. Recommend this lesson be distributed galaxy-wide. We have been catastrophically wrong about everything. He saved the file and looked back out the window. Emma was laughing as Patches successfully completed whatever command she'd given, rewarding him with the treat and enthusiastic praise. The creature's entire body language radiated happiness, an emotion the scientific community had insisted it was neurologically incapable of experiencing. The galaxy, Zilax realized, was about to learn what humanity had apparently known for centuries. The monsters were never the problem. Understanding them was.